What's up, everybody? Me and Micah here today for our first YouTube video, hopefully. And we're just wanting to get on and talk about the Virginia Right to Reproductive Freedom Amendment of 2026. So while this is a legislative bill and it has been passed in both the Senate and General Assembly here in Virginia, it will be a ballot initiative on November 3rd, 2026 for the midterm general election here in Virginia. So what this means is basically what we're going to talk about, and it enacts this massive, super progressive abortion agenda here in Virginia. So,
yeah, it's one of the most extreme things. I'm from Texas, and this would be unthinkable if it were even proposed in the Texas government. But more specifically, like, they're trying to solidify this in Virginia's constitution, which is a pretty big deal. It's hard to reverse something like this if it were to pass. So yeah, let's just, I guess, break down.
We're going to get into it. And I think that's the key component, is because, of course, we're not a democracy, but whenever any sort of legislative body or governmental body here in the U.S. wants something to actually be passed or actually established, they make it a ballot initiative so that people actually have the capacity to be able to vote on it. And that's exactly what they're doing here. So as Virginia has taken this drastic transition into this mass Democratic, overwhelmingly blue state, they're more than likely going to have to and be able to solidify this into their constitutional law. So we're going to get into it a little bit. It starts out here just at the very start of the bill, very straightforward, fundamentally defining what it means to have reproductive freedom. It's claiming that every individual has the fundamental right to reproductive freedom, which includes the ability to make and carry out any decision related to just a couple of the following: prenatal care, childbirth, postpartum care, contraception, abortion care, miscarriage management, and fertility care. So these are just a couple of the things that it is able to do and it's able to encompass within legislation.
You know, and this is really sad, because the way Democrats frame this, or the left frames this, is they call it reproductive freedom.
Yeah.
So there's several words that are trigger words for Americans, and freedom is definitely one of them. So
it's marketed well. That's how they do it. And it works. It does work effectively.
You know, and there's principles like ultimate freedom is actually not a good thing.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not a libertarian. I don't think people should really be smoking crack on the street. Same thing when it comes to abortion. I don't think somebody should just be able to choose one day that I don't want to carry out this pregnancy. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but in the end, it's still something extremely terrible. And this is definitely political work, framing things.
Yeah. And I think one of the key components here is that the government, it's kind of like taking its hands off of abortion by becoming initially involved in abortion. So basically, the state cannot deny, burden, or infringe upon any right directly or indirectly unless there is a compelling state of interest, like through the courts, of course, and through the achieved and restricted means. So abortion-specific regulations that we're seeing in this bill is that the Commonwealth here in Virginia may regulate abortion care into the third trimester. And we're not women's health experts, but when is that exactly?
The third trimester, I believe it's between 6 and 9 months after the woman figures out that she's pregnant.
Yeah, okay. So
after conception.
So that's quite some time into pregnancy. And as far as we know, any sort of ultrasound can detect a heartbeat at that point. And I mean, if a heartbeat is the standard for human life, if life in general, then that's murder. That's just straightforward. That is murder, 110%. And specific regulations is that a physician's professional judgment determines if it is medically necessary to protect the pregnant individual's life, physical health, or mental health. Additionally, the fetus is not viable based on the physician's professional judgment. So this kind of gives doctors a massive amount of jurisdiction over whether or not it's medically responsible or necessary to have an abortion.
Yeah, and I just searched it up. A baby's heart starts beating about 22 to 23 days after fertilization. So that would be about 5 weeks. And this bill is fighting for abortion up to six to 9 months, which is insane. At that point, it is basically, it's a human. I mean, it's a human at conception. But it is more of what we would resemble as a human. on the mental health part, that is completely up in the air what that means. I mean, if the doctor thinks that the mom is going to have like anxiety or depression, that would be grounds to abort your baby, which is insane.
So, I mean, it just, for Virginians in particular, I'd say be aware of this. Know that this could play an impact in your healthcare. I don't know how it could raise premiums of any sort. And I'm not saying that is not at the foremost front of this issue. Like, we're talking about human life here. But this could affect everyday life for all Virginians. Moving forward also, as it is potentially subject to be added to the state constitution, that could have lasting repercussions, and this could affect everyday life, as I've already said, as this does infringe on human liberty and prosperity. We're trying to redefine what human life is. That's never healthy. You can't do that. Human life is made in the image of God so that we can go out and prosper and flourish and have domain over the world. And you can't subject that to whatever our interpretation of it might be. It's wrong, and we can't succeed that way.
Yeah, and it may seem extreme to some people, but I don't think it is. Abortion is an issue that's on par with slavery. It's the same type of violation that we see in the Holocaust. You're taking a life and you're putting the value of dirt on it, essentially, which is terrible. And there's some things, I'm a much smaller government type of person. I'm more conservative, but there are issues that the government needs to step in. And honestly, I don't think this should be considered a state issue. I think this is definitely a national issue. Children are dying. I don't know the exact number, but there are several abortions per year in the U.S., whether that be, I don't even think we know the amount of abortion pill deaths. Yeah. I'm sure that's not even calculated into it, but medically assisted abortions are...
we're looking. So basically, as of last year, that would have been 2 years ago, abortion was the leading cause of death in the world, with around 45.1 million unborn children as a result. That would have been, more than the total military and civilian deaths of the First World War. And this is not just an American problem. This is a worldwide problem. It's not just something that we can say, we'll resolve it here in the U.S. Of course, it does matter here because, of course, we are the nation of freedom and liberty, unlike any nation in the world to have ever existed. But it does not just end here. It begins here when we're able to take this stand and say, hey, we're going to stand for human life. We're going to stand for human flourishing. And we're going to say, no, we cannot move forward with this. And I think Micah says it perfectly. Of course, it's not comparable to slavery by any means, but it does subject human life to a specific means that is not, it's not proper in any way, shape, or form.
It all starts here. America is a very free country, and we have an opportunity to take a stand against this issue, and the hope is that it has a ripple effect all the way across the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, slavery is still an issue, but it is far less than what it used to be before the Civil War. Mm-hmm. So there is hope for this, but you got to take a stand, and you got to stop saying, "Oh, someone else can do that. Yeah. My politician can stand for that." When you yourself can stand for an issue as big as abortion. Yeah,
and I mean, even if you're not personally liable to have an abortion, you have to take that personal individual responsibility, because you never know what anybody in your inner social circle or inner community might be suffering with. We don't know what it's like to be going through any circumstance that we would even fathom having an abortion, but that doesn't mean we can't be there for those people that are. That's the most important aspect here, is that we care for those and love those that are considering taking that route. Here in Virginia, things are probably going to change in November based on what's moving forward in this legislation. Doesn't mean that it has to be the case everywhere, anywhere, all over Earth. So that's what we have for y'all. Thank you for watching. Tune in for what's next.
Yeah, be sure to subscribe. We're trying something crazy with this YouTube channel.
Absolutely. So.